Chapter 636, Raking in Money. Needle and thread in a loving mother's hands, mending holes of the clothes of her soon-wandering son. Her sewing picks up the pace as the date approaches, worries of belated return echoing inside her heart. 1. It was a maternal love, the greatest existence of love in the world, the love that was like the highest peak of a mountain ridge. The son did something wrong and came across the disaster of being imprisoned. Though Zhang Shi did not speak out her feelings, yet restlessness and worry resided inside her. Longing and anticipation that her son could soon be released from the prison to appear before her eyes. Half a year passed by with countless fantasies and countless prayers. When that dream had finally come true, her whole being trembled, feeling both excited and scared. She was afraid that she was dreaming, and 2 lines of tears fell down. Pudong. Su Shangwen's knees slammed on the ground and he repeatedly knocked his head on the ground, speaking with a bitter expression, "I'm back, mother." Finally, Zhang Shi was sure that she was not dreaming, as a dream would not be this real. She bit her lips and went before Su Shangwen. "Pa." She slapped Su Shangwen's face. With a loving and distressed expression, Zhang Shi angrily asked, "Have you already realized your wrongs?" Su Shangwen kept kneeling. He nodded silently and replied, "I've already realized and admitted my wrongs, mother." Zhang Shi slowly closed her eyes, yet her tears flowed down from the corner of her eyes. When she opened them again, she sighed and said, "Get up. It's good that you still have the conscience that your family is here." "Mother, I'm sorry." Zhang Meiyun also hurriedly came over and said with a face full of remorse. Zhang Shi did not speak but looked at Su Lingyun instead. Su Lingyun glanced at Tang Xiu quickly before she pulled Su Shangwen from the ground and said, "It's great that you came back, big brother. Xiu did not do it to you with discretion, please don't be angry with him." "How can be I angry with him?" Su Shangwen shook his head. "On the contrary, I should be thanking Tang Xiu. I wouldn't have repented if it weren't for him. Mother, please don't worry. We will change and start a fresh life and regard our family members as family members. As it should be." Even in her dreams, Zhang Shi did not expect that she would hear her son say such words. She could not stop the tears flowing from her eyes, as she repeatedly nodded before replying, "That's good, great. It's great that you can change." The atmosphere in the Su family became slightly different with the return of Su Shangwen. Tang Yunda's attitude neither showed that he couldn't forgive him or pursued his responsibility. In the evening, the mother and daughter, Mu Qingping and Gu Yin, returned back to Star City by a car driven by Su Quan, whereas Tang Xiu left the Su family village with Tang Yunda and Su Lingyun for Beijing. It was at 2 o'clock in the morning as the family of 3 arrived at the capital. They did not go directly to the Tang family residence, however, but went to the house recently bought by Tang Yunda in Beijing. At the Rivers and Mountain Blossom Garden. It was a relatively upscale residential complex in the Third Ring Road. The most notable thing was the double compound house that was luxuriously decorated. It was Tang Xiu's first time coming to this place despite him having been to the capital several times. "Xiu, your mother and I will stay downstairs. Are you going to take a room downstairs or upstairs?" Tang Yunda put down the luggage, lit up a cigarette and said with a smile, "I'll take the one upstairs." Tang Xiu smiled. "Anyways, this house is quite big. It should be around 200 square meters wide, right?" "It's 260 square meters, to be exact." Tang Yunda smiled. "I was originally planning to buy a villa directly. But your mom doesn't like spacious villas, not to mention that we seldom stay in the capital either. Buying such a big residence would be a waste, so we picked this one. Anyways, we'll leave the master bedroom upstairs for you. The house keys are on the bedside table, remember to take them with you." "Got it." Tang Xiu casually observed the house as he took his travel bag to the 2nd floor. Though he had an interspatial ring, he still did not want to have his parents know this secret for the time being. He changed into clothes that were temporarily stuffed into the travel bag prepared by his mother, Su Lingyun. The master bedroom was around 30 square meters wide. It was luxuriously decorated and was especially spacious. Tang Xiu put the travel bag on the cabinet and walked towards the window. The building had 20 floors and their apartment took the 11th and 12th floor, which was in the middle of the building. Therefore, by standing on the window, he could see the commercial street outside the residential complex. It's going to snow again, it seems. Tang Xiu looked up at the sky in a good mood. For him, the definition of home was very simple. Wherever his mother was present, it was home, and he was more than satisfied now that he found his father and was with them. The next morning was the New Year's Day. Tang Xiu got up very early and followed his parents to the Tang family's ancestral residence. The residence was now very lively, as nearly all the core members of the Tang family had arrived, including his aunt, Tang Min. Paying a kowtow and making a ceremonial visit to wish the family a happy new year. What surprised Tang Xiu was that his grandparents also gifted him a thick red envelope. In the backyard of the ancestral home, Tang pulled Tang Xiu to a remote spot. The latter grinned while shaking her mobile phone and spoke in a whisper, "Brother, gimme a red envelope." Tang Xiu stuffed his hand into his pocket and forced a smile. "I didn't prepare it. How about I give you the one Grandma gave me, is that okay, with you?" "No need to be that troublesome." Tang laughed. "It's more convenient if you send me a red envelope via WeChat, you know." "Sending a red envelope via WeChat? What exactly is that?" asked Tang Xiu, confused. Tang's face stilled. "It can't be true, right?" There was a disbelieving expression in her eyes as she asked, You don't know what a WeChat red envelope is?" "I know WeChat is a messaging and chatting platform app, but I don't know what a WeChat red envelope is." Tang Xiu shook his head. That's right. I don't seem to have a WeChat account either." The way Tang looked at Tang Xiu was as though seeing a monster from an alien star, an extraterrestrial. With disbelief painted her face, she said, "OMG. It's unbelievable that you don't have a WeChat account, brother. Who doesn't use WeChat nowadays? Who doesn't know what a WeChat red envelope is?" "You." Inwardly, Tang Xiu could only force a smile. He just returned from the immortal world for half a year and had to tend to various matters. How could he have time to spare to care about these things, anyway? He knew what the WeChat apps were from Yukai's group, but he did not know that this app could also be used to send red envelopes. Tang shook her head, giving Tang Xiu a look like she was defeated. She reached out her small hand and said, "Gimme your mobile phone, I'll help you download the WeChat app. Then, I'll teach you to link your bank card to the account. After which you can send red envelopes to your WeChat circle of friends." 10 minutes later, Tang asked Tang Xiu about his information, then helped him download the WeChat mobile app and linked his bank card to the account. Afterward, she smiled and said, "You can now send red envelopes, brother. Now you must send me a thick one, right?" "Oh, that's right. You can directly transfer the money to the red envelope app, or else you will look like a miser of low class." Tang Xiu could only dumbly laugh. "Okay. By the way, what's the maximum amount for the transfer via the WeChat account? You taught me this thing, so you'll be my first friend in WeChat. I'll gift you the maximum amount of red envelope." Tang's eyes brightened up as she extended her hand with a grinning face. "It's 50,000 yuan. "All right, then I'll send you 50,000 yuan, said Tang Xiu with a smile. After a while, Tang Xiu transferred 50,000 via WeChat to Tang. After the girl left with a happy face, Tang Xiu recalled all the people listed on the phone book and sent them a text containing his WeChat account number to let them add him as their friend. This time was a new age, and one must catch up with the new tides and trends. Now that he returned to Earth, Tang Xiu was perfectly aware that he must not isolate himself from society. There were many people using WeChat now, thus he could no longer linger outside alone. Beep beep. Beep beep beep. Notification sounds set by Tang Xiu kept beeping. Although the cell numbers saved in Tang Xiu's phone were not many, about less than 100 people's cell numbers in total, it took only a few minutes after he sent the message before 40 to 50 people applied to be added as his friends. What a rare matter. Boss Tang unexpectedly signed in the WeChat. Tang Xiu, I'm Long Hanwen. Divine Dr. Tang, I'm Li Hongji. Boss, you finally have a WeChat account. Brother Tang Xiu. After sending the application to everyone, Tang Xiu kept receiving WeChat's notifications. Some were text messages and some were voices. There were many messages, however, and he would be left exhausted if he were to reply to each one of them. Therefore, he turned his eyes from it and straightly sent a red envelope to each person, 200 yuan each. Man, playing with WeChat is hella expensive. Despite Tang Xiu now being a rich man, he felt slightly squeezed out after sending so many red envelopes all of a sudden. What he did not expect afterward, however, was that the moment he sent his red envelopes, he also received notifications that his WeChat account received red envelopes as well, making him stunned. 220,000. Most of the amount he received was 6666 and 8,888 yuan and so on. After spending more than half an hour, he found that all the red envelopes he received from everyone amounted to more than 800,000 yuan. Among them, the likes of the big bosses such as Long Hanwen, Chen Zhizhong, Jin Xingkue, Miao Wendong, and the rest, were as though having an agreement in advance between them, as they sent him the same maximum amount, 50,000 yuan. 1. One can also use this to get rich, no? While looking at the total amount of money displayed in the WeChat wallet, he shook his head with an expression that was at a loss whether he had to laugh or cry. Just as he was preparing to close the WeChat app, Kong Xia called him. After a happy conversation, he was directly added to the magnificent Tang Corporation's top executives WeChat group. OMG. Did I see the name correctly? It's the B. Boss? Our big boss was added to the group? Whoa, big boss was added. Is he going to give us a New Year's bonus or something? Hooray. Long live the boss. Happy New Year, boss. Tang Xiu immediately realized Kong Xia's intention for adding to the company's senior management group. It seemed that she wanted him to send out red envelopes to them. After some thinking, Tang Xiu checked it out and found that the number of people in the group was more than 40 altogether. He immediately sent more than 40 envelopes with 200 yuan at once, letting all of them grab it. As a result, the red envelopes were welcomed with cheers in the WeChat group. Amid innumerable messages of flattery and praise, Tang Xiu sent blessings and greeted everyone before closing the app. What are you smirking and grinning at, Sonny? Su Lingyun came out of the room as she looked up to the falling snow. Her eyes finally fell on Tang Xiu and asked with a cheerful expression. I got red envelopes, Mom. I made quite a fortune from it, answered Tang Xiu with a smile. Did you see the red envelope Mom sent you? Su Lingyun could not help laughing. I sent 50,000 yuan via WeChat. It was yuan. Someone taught me to use it. We were so poor in the past, so Mom did not understand how to use those sophisticated mobile softwares. So Mom only gifted you a little pocket money every year. But now that our family has money, Mom wants to make it up to you, and gifted you all at once this time. Chapter 637, A Sudden Incident. With the improvement of their family condition, Su Lingyun had always been wishing to give something to her son. Even if the others were oblivious to the matter, it was something crystal clear to her how sorrowful and hard the days they had gone through all these years. Tang Xiu hugged Su Lingyun's shoulders and smilingly said, Thank you, Mom. Even if you don't give me a dime, I'm still very happy and satisfied as long as I can celebrate the new year with you every year. Silly boy. Su Lingyun stroked Tang Xiu's head and said with a smile, "Let's go inside." It started snowing outside. The present Tang family had a mental and spiritual fortitude that was different from before. In the past, it was they had a knot that burdened them, always wary, tense, and always vigilant to the threat posed by the Yao family, for fear that because of their negligence, an incident would occur at any time. Now, however, the Yao family had become a thing of the past, the once behemoth had collapsed, making all the members of the Tang family breathe a sigh of relief. Nevertheless, the threat brought by the Yao family all these years had also made the members of the Tang family deeply comprehended one thing, that was, to be a monolithic whole and keep the family together. To make the Tang family more and more powerful in the future, it was necessary for them to unite. One for all and all for one. All is withered when one is dried up, for one's glory is everyone's honor. Though the Tang family had ruined the Yao family, it did not mean that they could relax as of yet. There were numerous prominent families in the capital and the power constellation was always complicated. At present, there were still a few powerful families in existence that could pose a threat to the Tang family, and it was unknown how many forces were staying low-key and hidden in the dark. Therefore, though the members of the Tang family did feel relaxed, they did not ease their vigilance and neither did they let go of their alertness. Tang Xiu himself was very satisfied with the current situation the Tang family was in at present. He stayed with his parents in Beijing for 3 days before returning back to Star City. Although the family of 3 did not celebrate the New Year in Star City in these 3 days, they had prepared a lot of New Year's gifts, not to mention that Mu Qingping had also returned home prior to them. Hence, the family of 3 returned to Southgate Town with warm feelings. The light of day receded and was replaced by dusk. Just as the family was preparing to have dinner, Tang Xiu received a call from Kong Xia. The happy expression on his face vanished after the phone call ended, as several points of intense killing intent replaced it. "Mom, Dad, I need to go out to tend to something." Tang Xiu got up and grabbed his coat. Surprised, Tang Yunda asked, "Is it very important that you can't even join us for dinner?" "It's a bit of emergency indeed," said Tang Xiu. "A top executive of my company had a car accident, so I must catch up and have a look at his situation." "Then be careful on the road, son." Tang Yunda nodded and said, "Do call me if something else happens." After replying, Tang Xiu quickly left the villa and drove towards Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. When he arrived at the hospital's operating room, he found many security guards from the magnificent Tang Corporation standing guard in the corridor. Some of them were Kong Xia's private bodyguards. They stood at the entrance to the operation with solemn expressions, and they watched the situation around in vigilance. "How is he, Kong Xia?" Tang Xiu strode over and asked. Upon seeing Tang Xiu, Kong Xia immediately spoke with a bitter expression, "His injuries are very severe. I have been noticed that he's in a critical state and the doctor told me to be mentally prepared since the possibility he can be saved is minuscule." "What about the 2 bodyguards who are responsible of protecting Dai Cheng? Have they been found?" asked Tang Xiu in a heavy voice. "No, not yet." Kong Xia shook her head. "I immediately rushed here with these men the moment I got the news. I already sent people to investigate it and they have yet to come back. However, we lost contact with 2 since we can't connect to their phones. We also have contacted their family, and they do not know where they went either." A cold glint flashed in Tang Xiu's eyes. It was easy to judge that the car accident that happened to Dai Cheng was definitely an accident, but a pre-planned assassination had been prepared for a long time. As far as he knew, Dai Cheng had a total of 4 bodyguards who worked in shifts of 2. The 4 of them had been trained by experts from the Everlasting Feast Hall, and 5 ordinary people would not be able to contend with them. The most important thing was that these 2 bodyguards had very professional work ethics, and they naturally kept their phones on 24/7. Now that they have gone missing and their phone couldn't be contacted, it would only mean one thing: they had met a misfortune accident. Any particular situation happened in the company as of recently? Asked Tang Xiu. Or, did some issues emerge that Dai Chang encountered? Dai Chang once mentioned it to me last year. He said that someone had contacted him and wanted to privately buy a large bulk of God's nectar from him. You also know that Dai Chang is the director of the magnificent Tang Corporation's winery, and there have been a lot of people who want to see him, asking to open the back door in order to buy God's nectar in private. That's why I did not take it seriously at first, but I did feel that the number ordered by that person was kind of quite a lot. Dai Chang refused that person's request and then received a threat from the other party. Who is this man? Asked Tang Xiu. He's from the southern region, the owner of an electronic fabs in Guangyang province, someone surnamed Chen, elaborated Kong Xia. I already assigned some people to investigate the details on this man surnamed Chen half an hour ago, but there's no result as of yet. Let's wait for the news, then. I'll go inside to see his situation. Tang Xiu nodded. Having said that, he strode inside the operating room. There he saw 7 doctors wearing surgical robes currently performing surgery on Dai Chang. The hands of the chief surgeon were covered with blood. Who let you inside? Get out quickly. A female doctor who had just transferred to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital reprimanded him with knitted brows. Immediately, the other doctors in the operating room turned their heads and had their vision land on Tang Xiu's face. Tang Xiu ignored her as he looked at the chief surgeon and asked, "How is he?" When the chief surgeon saw Tang Xiu, his eyes immediately lit up and hurriedly said, "The patient's injuries are very severe. Though we have stopped the internal bleeding, 4 of his ribs are broken and one of them pierced his lungs. Also, he suffers from severe head injury and fractured cranial bones. He will need the help of a brain specialist later. Handle the injuries you can deal with as fast as possible, and then let me take over," said Tang Xiu. Understood. The surgeon said respectfully. At this moment, the newly transferred female doctor was dumbfounded. She didn't know Tang Xiu, neither had she seen him in the hospital. She really did not understand why would the chief surgeon listen to Tang Xiu at all. And the rest seemed to have admiring and respectful expressions. 10 minutes later, Tang Xiu took over the treatment. Since the wounds had been sutured, Tang Xiu's work became easier. After consuming 3 hours with extra carefulness, he was finally able to pull the battered Dai Chang back from the line of death. The medical techniques he displayed, however, were so incredible and unthinkable that all the doctors in the room couldn't grasp them. However, when he said that his life is no longer in danger, but the follow-up treatment must be done in order, only then did all the doctors in the operating room come back to their senses with intense admiration on their faces. Thank you, Divine Dr. Tang. It's fortunate that you came here in time. To be honest, the possibility of rescuing him was only 20% if I were the one who did the surgery, said the chief surgeon with admiration. Tang Xiu nodded at him without speaking a word. He had consumed a lot of his mental energy in the 3 hours of treatment, so he only spoke a few words and then left the operating room. He's that miracle-working divine Dr. Tang? Muttered the female doctor who reprimanded Tang Xiu before. There was a disbelieving expression on her face. That's of course. The chief surgeon glanced at her and smilingly said. He naturally is that divine Dr. Tang. A miracle-working doctor who has treated a lot of hard-to-treat diseases. It's like the illnesses depart the moment he touches the patients and brings back life to them. The way I treated him before, the female doctor's lips squirmed a few times and looked somewhat restless. Don't worry. The chief surgeon comforted her with a smile. Divine Dr. Tang has a broad mind and heart, he will never stoop down to our level. After all, it was good that you of all people tried to stop someone from rushing into the operation room, more so that you did not recognize Divine Dr. Tang at all, so you did what you must do. All right, don't think about it too much. He just said that we must finish the post-treatment care for the patient well. When Tang Xiu came out of the operating room, he saw Kong Xia waiting outside the entrance looking to have something in mind. Since the people around were his own people, Tang Xiu straightly asked, "How is the investigation?" "We found the bodies of the 2 bodyguards in a river on the outskirts of the city," said Kong Xia. "Their deaths was caused by heavy blows, probably by blunt weapons. This news is from the police, and I already sent someone to deal with it. Also, we haven't found this businessman surnamed Qian. I've assigned some people from the Everlasting Feast Hall to investigate him in Guangyang province, but the news is that there's no trace of him there, like he has disappeared." Tang Xiu took his mobile phone and made several calls. He must find that businessman surnamed Qian. It would be best for that person to not be found by him, or else he would make him pay a very painful price. In regards to Dai Chang, Tang Xiu liked this bald man. He was the one who took him from the other region to Star City to work for him. Now that the man encountered such a huge accident, he was the one responsible to make it up for him. "Boss, I have a suspicion that..." Kong Xia hesitated. Tang Xiu's expression changed and asked, "What suspicion?" "If this is really the doing of that businessman surnamed Qian, I suspect that this incident is not simple," elaborated Kong Xia. Tang Xiu's eyes narrowed. "You mean that man looked for Dai Chang first as a means to conceal his true purpose? Do you feel that he also wants the formula of the god's nectar?" "That's right." Kong Xia nodded. "Let's wait for the news," said Tang Xiu. "As long as I find that Qian man, I can squeeze out everything from him and make him spit out his real purpose. Anyways, instruct all the security guards of the company to withdraw from the hospital, as well as your bodyguards. Assign some experts from our company to come here in secret. I've rescued Dai Chang's life, but he must not be injured again." "Understood." Kong Xia nodded and did not speak another word. As Kong Xia left with her bodyguards and the security guards of the magnificent Tang Corporation, Tang Xiu personally escorted Dai Chang to the ICU. He did not hurry to leave but stayed outside the room waiting for news. Late at night, there was a phone call from Tang Min, informing Tang Xiu that she had found the location where that businessman called Qian was at. He was in Blue City. After hanging up the call, Tang Xiu pondered for a while before making a phone call to Xiaomingzhen. He knew that he was still in Blue City, thus he immediately asked his help to apprehend this businessman named Qian. "Old brother Xiao, I'll send you the information about this man. I entrust this work to you." Chapter 638, Disappearing from the Scene. After having finished with the call, Tang Xiu was struck with a bit heavy, sour mood. He was aware of the magnificent Tang Corporation's development. It was like an extremely fast rocket, even people without much ability were able to see it clearly. His identity probably was already known to many people at this time. The reason why his company could continue to develop until now, on the one hand, was because of the forces in Star City, who coveted the data of the company's core products, had all been removed from previously. And on the other hand, it may be related to his other identity. That other reason was the Tang family. The Tang family was like a protective umbrella sheltering him. Many people were crystal clear about it in their hearts that they must face the Tang family, if they wanted to deal with the magnificent Tang Corporation. It was very clear for Tang Xiu that the struggle between the Tang and Yao families, which resulted in the former being the final victor, leaving him as the party who benefited the most from it. The result of the contention between the two families ended up providing more layers of deterrence and protection for the magnificent Tang Corporation, an inadvertent aftermath arising from the strange combination of circumstances, so to speak. Birds die in pursuit of food, and so will people in an attempt to obtain riches. A tall tree will catch the wind, thus being coveted by many greedy forces is inevitable. I have always wanted to keep a low profile, silently making a fortune in secret, but the rapid development of the magnificent Tang Corporation, as well as the potential it holds in the future, inevitably caused jealousy from others. This so-called staying low profile I've been doing seems to be seen as nothing but a joke, a laughingstock in the eyes of many people. But the one who holds the authority over the magnificent Tang Corporation is none other but me. Tang Xiao lit a cigarette and stood in the hallway while taking a few deep puffs, as a strong and overbearing aura burst out from him. Since keeping a low profile is no longer an option, then I will stand up high. The Tang family is in existence in the light, whereas the everlasting feast hall is in the dark. Since I can use both for myself, what should I be afraid of? Whoever dares to eye the magnificent Tang Corporation with their greedy eyes, I will play and have fun with them. If worst came to worst, I will visit them with my men and exterminate them. After thinking it through, Tang Xiao extinguished the cigarette butt and made a phone call to Gu Xiaoxue, instructing her to transfer Moa back from Nine Dragons Island and to send a group of experts with him here, and be ready to be dispatched at his orders. Blue City. Inside a standard room of the Venus Hotel, Qian Xingwang stood before the window with a vigilant look. He watched the outside through the curtain slit. He was an ambitious Chinese man who lived abroad. At the same time, he was also a trusted aide who managed the financial affairs of an influential figure in the Varro family, a member of the Stygian Club. Giving up my position as the boss of the Varro family's electronic fabs in China for the sake of getting the magnificent Tang Corporation's formulas may be a great loss. But I can get more profits and benefits if I can get the formula. Big Boss said that, if I complete this task, he'll help me develop my own force in the future. Qian Xiangwang gripped his fists tightly, and there was a longing look in his eyes. He had bought a rather powerful winery vice director belonging to the magnificent Tang Corporation. As long as Dai Chang was dead, that vice director was highly likely of becoming the new director of the winery. Then it would be very easy for him to get the recipe of the god's nectar. Knock knock. His room's door was knocked, making Qian Xingwang tense inside. He quickly turned around to the four men sitting on the chairs next to the bed and quickly gave them a hand signal. Immediately, a middle-aged man understood Qian Xingwang's intention and quickly pulled out the pistol from his waist. He walked to the side of the door and called out, "Who is it?" "It's me." A woman's voice replied outside the door. The middle-aged man quickly shot Qian Xiangwang a look. When he saw him nod, he immediately opened the door and allowed a beautiful woman dressed up in a gorgeous attire to enter the room. Qian Xingwang strode forward and asked, "How is the matter going?" "The target has been dealt with and it was as per your instruction, a premeditated car accident. A troublesome thing may need to be dealt with, however. His two bodyguards. If the people from Magnificent Tang Corporation are to investigate it, it'll probably be very easy to find that the two bodyguards are already dead. Everything else doesn't matter as long as Dai Chang is dead," commented Qian Xiangwang with satisfaction. "Anyways, why did you want us to arrange a premeditated car accident in the first place?" asked the woman. "I just want to make those people from the Magnificent Tang Corporation to realize that this is not a mere traffic accident, and is a deliberate effort to let the cat out of the bag that some people are currently eyeing their company, especially the winery." Qian Xingwang sneered. "When they are in a state of extreme nervousness, it will be our opportunity." "I don't understand," said the woman with a confused expression. "It's a diversionary tactic, a feint to the east to divert them. But the real attack will come from the west," said Chang Xiangwang with a complacent expression. "Our primary target is not the god's nectar recipe but the formula of the healthcare and cosmetics products. As long as the security forces of the Magnificent Tang Corporation are assigned to the winery, we can begin to snatch the formulas of the healthcare and cosmetics products." "You're amazing, boss," said the woman, admiring him. Qian Xingwang smugly smiled and then said with all seriousness, "Hurry up and pack up our things. We must move fast. The Tang family of Beijing is the backer behind the Magnificent Tang Corporation. If we don't move fast, I'm sure it won't take a long time for someone to find us here." "Asen, are you done finding a new base?" "I already did. We can head there at any time." The middle-aged man who opened the door nodded and replied. We mustn't delay any longer, let's move at once, said Qian Xiangwang with a serious expression. More than half an hour later, Xiao Mingjin arrived in a hurry with 8 men. When they kicked open the door of the room where Qian Xiangwang had stayed according to address given by Tang Xiu, they found that the people inside had disappeared. I did not find anyone here, Tang Xiu. They should have just left judging from the traces they left in the room, said Xiao Mingjin after he called Tang Xiu to report about the situation. While holding the phone, Tang Xiu slightly frowned and said, "Got it, old brother Xiao. Let's put this matter aside first since they have already escaped. Sorry for troubling you this late." "Thanks a bunch. Leave the ceremonial talk aside, brother. Anyways, do you want me to send some people to find their traces?" said Xiao Mingjin. "Finding them should be easy as long as they are still in Blue City." "Never mind," said Tang Xiu. "It's evident that these people have a clear target judging from their planned actions. Thus, the first thing they'll do should be to erase their traces, and then finding them wouldn't be an easy task." "So be it, then," said Xiao Mingjing. "If you need anything else, I'll still be staying in Blue City for the time being. Do call me at any time if you need me." "All right." In Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, Tang Xiu concluded the call with Xiao Mingjin and contacted his aunt, Tang Min, again. From her, he learned that these people they'd been investigating had indeed left and that their movements were so bizarre that the intelligence personnel was unable to find them. It was like they vanished without a trace. It was late at night, thus Tang Xiu delegated the task of protecting Dai Chang to several experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall who had arrived, and then drove to Kong Xia's villa. It was already the early hours of the morning, but Kong Xia had not yet gone to sleep when Tang Xiu called her. On the second floor of the villa, Kong Xia's bedroom. After Tang Xiu arrived, he took off his jacket and walked to the beauty's bed. He opened half of the window and sat there to lit a cigarette even though the heating was on. "How was the result of the investigation?" asked Kong Xia with a face full of concern. Tang Xiu shook his head. "The identity of the other party has been investigated and identified indeed. They were previously in Blue City, but when the people I asked for help to apprehend them arrived there was not a single soul in the room. They had left already." "So, the movements of the other party are planned?" commented Kong Xia with a serious expression. "Could it be their real target is the God's Nectar?" "The God's Nectar may be just one of many." Tang Xiu sneered. "Since they dare to covet the products of our company or its formulas, I don't think they will only aim at the God's Nectar. The formulas of the healthcare and cosmetics products may be included on the list as well." "Who exactly is this person?" asked Kong Xia. "His name is Qian Xiangwang, a Chinese living abroad, the owner of an electronic fab in Guangyang province," answered Tang Xiu. "However, I have a suspicion that this identity is just a cover to conceal his true identity. It's highly likely that he has another identity unless he's mental, otherwise, he would never dare to have the idea of eyeing the magnificent Tang Corporation. The enemy is now in the dark and we are in the light. It's best to stay careful and vigilant," commented Kong Xia. Tang Xiu nodded in response without speaking, and then said, "I won't leave Star City before I get this rat. Also, I've already called a group from Jingmen Island here. They should be arriving a few days later. These people won't quit halfway and leave the work unfinished since they took the actions already. I'll make arrangements to set up a net in Star City. They will be trapped as long as they dare to get into action again." "About your schooling," replied Kong Xia. "I'll put the matter with my schooling aside for now." Tang Xiu shook his head. "The formulas of the magnificent Tang Corporation must never be stolen, else we will be struck with severe losses." Kong Xia nodded without speaking and then said, "Anyways, I've sent someone to talk to the police. They are currently investigating these people, so let's prepare ours too. Relying on the police nowadays is like playing with an absolute joke." Tang Xiu forced a wry smile. The people I asked for help were more resourceful and skillful than the police, as they are from the state intelligence agency. Yet, they still lost their traces. Do you think the police can be compared to the all-powerful intelligence network of the country? Kang Xia stared blankly for a moment, and then immediately said, "Then I'll talk to the police tomorrow to make them suspend the investigation." "Don't, there's no need." Tang Xiu waved his hand. "We'll let them continue the investigation in order not to beat the grass and scare the snake. We'll act the same as we usual. We'll use the brake to stop them, albeit slowly, and then we're going to sit back and wait for the fish to bite the hook." This night, Tang Xiu stayed overnight in Kang Xia's place and slept until the next morning, as he then left in a hurry. He went out last night and did not come back all night, thus he was afraid that his mother would get worried. After returning back to Southgate Town, he found his parents still asleep, so he went to his bedroom, changed his clothes and cultivated for more than an hour. "Do you have something to do this morning, Xiu?" asked Su Lingyun at the table.
"Yeah,
I have some matters to tend to. I got an appointment with a friend to fetch the child I just adopted," answered Tang Xiu. Su Lingyun put down the chopsticks and said with a curious expression, "Xiu, I know you just adopted a child since you told me before that you wanted to take him as your disciple. Is there any peculiarity or something special about him?" Tang Xiu was silent for a short while and then answered, "He's blind." Su Lingyun's hands trembled and quickly asked, Do you want to adopt a blind child? Have you thought about it well, Xiu? Though our family is not short on money to foster a child, but... Chapter 639, Gold has its own value, but jade is priceless. After waking up from his vegetative state and learning that he had a son, Tang Yunda had learned about the situation pertaining to his son, and never did he regard Tang Xiu as a child. It was said that the children of poor families were able to manage the household. He knew that his son and wife had gone through a hard life all these years, and was naturally aware of the fact that he had a very mature personality. Upon hearing that his son just adopted a blind child, however, he still frowned and expressed his thoughts. "Do you have that much time and energy, Xiu? You should know that there's a big difference in raising a blind child and a normal one." "I understand what you are saying, Dad," said Tang Xiu. "But this child is very special. His eyes may be blind, but not his heart. He can see many things normal people can't, and this is the very reason why I want to adopt him and take him as my disciple. It's because I think that he can be molded. You should know that my vision won't go wrong. Just look at Yinin, isn't she a very good example?" "Oh,
yeah,
Master is right," Gu Yinin grinned. "Yinin also wants a junior brother." Tang Yunda and Su Lingyun exchanged looks, and the tense atmosphere eased down. Both of them knew that Tang Xiu was no longer an ordinary human. Though they were oblivious as to when and how Tang Xiu became a cultivator, but they had witnessed his ability and were crystal clear about it. Hence, they did not speak about it any longer. Mu Qingping asked in a low voice, "I'm going out to buy some daily necessities for children. Also, I'll clean up the room next to Yinin's. How do you see it?" "That's great." Tang Xiu smiled and nodded. After the breakfast, Tang Xiu took his car and drove out. He originally planned to fetch Little Blind before the new year, but the dean of the welfare house called him later on, saying she wanted Little Blind to stay there to celebrate his last new year in the welfare house, a request he consented. After the new year, he had to go to Beijing, thus delaying the matter. At the entrance to Southgate Town, Long Shuaiyao, who got a call from Tang Xiu, was waiting there early and brought with her 2 large suitcases. Upon seeing Tang Xiu, who parked his car in front of her, she immediately knocked on the window and smilingly said, "Open the trunk. I bought some stuff for the children, so I'll take them now while convenient." Tang Xiu opened the trunk and got off the car to help put 2 suitcases into the trunk. Then he smiled and said, "There are not many young women who have a kind and warm heart like you nowadays. I even suspect that nearly all of your money was spent on the children of the Blue Star Welfare House, you know." Don't praise me, will you? You made me embarrassed for nothing. Long Shuiyao softly smiled. Besides, my salary is very high, to begin with, tens of thousands yuan a month. Tang Shou smiled in response and said no more. Long Shuiyao indeed had a quite high salary. According to what he knew, she visited the Blue Star Welfare House a few times every month, and the gifts she sent every time amounted to quite a sum. For example, her visit last year when he was with her, she spent around 20 to 30,000 yuan. After getting on the car, Long Shuiyao smilingly said, "Are you curious about it, Tang Shou? Anyways, Long Hanwen is my uncle, and you know that he's a rich and wealthy man. So I thought, why don't I ask him to support the Blue Star Welfare House financially, too? Hence the effort." After starting the car, Tang Shou nodded and said,
Yeah.
"I was quite curious about that. It's reasonable to say that a mere drop of support from the bucket of wealth possessed by the Long family can make a tremendous change for the Blue Star Welfare House, so the house won't have to go through that kind of difficulty again. As a matter of fact, this uncle of mine has his own charitable foundation, and he allocates hundreds of thousands of yuan every year for me, so I can spend the money on the children of the welfare house. It's just that most of the children there have a poor physical condition and bad health. Nearly half of them contracted some illness, so I have to spend 200 to 300,000 yuan to take them to the doctors for treatment every year." Tang Shou nodded without speaking, but he too understood the situation. Most of the children in the Blue Star Welfare House were frail or were sick. Excluding Little Blind, one of the children there even had a congenital heart disease and needed to go through treatment every year. It was quite expensive. A major surgery that child had last year cost more than 200,000 yuan. Quickly, the two people had arrived at the Blue Star Welfare House. Tang Shou accompanied Little Blind to pack up his stuff. He did not spend much time in the welfare house as he then took Little Blind to leave, while Long Shuiyao had nothing to do today, so she stayed. Inside the SUV Range Rover, amid the classical music being played, Little Blind sat in the front passenger seat, listening to the music with a tranquil expression. After driving on the road for several kilometers, Tang Shou stopped at a traffic light intersection and spoke while waiting for the red light to change. "The documents for your adoption have been settled, but I haven't listed your name in the family register. So, we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau, and after we are done with your name registration in the register, you will become a member of my family." "All right." Little Blind nodded gently. "Your family name later will be Tang, and I'll give you a new name, Tang Xiaohan. What do you think?" said Tang Shou once again. Little Blind thought for a while and suddenly asked with a smile, "How should I address you in the future?" "We're going to hold a discipleship ceremony after we return home," said Tang Shou. "You will be my 5th disciple in the future." "Understood." Little Blind nodded. "That name is so pleasant to hear, Master. I like it very much." "It's great that you like it." Tang Shou smiled. "Anyways, do you still remember what I've promised you? I'll make your eyes able to see the light again in the future. I'll take you to a certain place after a period of time, and by then, you will officially embark on the cultivation path." Cultivation path, a term that Little Blind couldn't figure it out at all. But he had a faint feeling that his future would never be the same again. The Civil Affairs Bureau was located in the Old River district of Star City. After Tang Shou arrived there with Little Blind, or was now Tang Xiaohan, he met Long Zhengyu at the entrance. At this time, the fellow was wearing a down coat, and yet he kept moving his feet and warming his hands with his breath. "We are not late, are we, Zhengyu?" Tang Shou grabbed Tang Xiaohan's hand and walked towards him.
Nah.
"You're not late," said Long Zhengyu with a smile. "Anyways, is he Little Blind, the one you mentioned to me?" "His name is Tang Xiaohan now," corrected Tang Shou. "All right, did you bring the adoption certificate with you?" Long Zhengyu nodded. "You'll need that and your ID card for registering his name in the family register." "I've brought all of them." Let's go inside, said Tang Xiu. China was a country where the relationship between people and favor was important. There was even a saying that one may be recommended and put in an important position if his relatives or friends have status and power, and the same goes if you want to get things done. Long Zhengyu had a close relationship with someone of authority in the Civil Affairs Bureau, and his arrival made the second-in-command of the bureau accompany him. The proceedings with the family register were quickly done, and the other party modestly invited them to his office and they stayed there for a while. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau and while glancing at Tang Xiaohan, Long Zhengyu spoke with a hesitating expression. I wanted to take you to a fun place, but now it seems you can't go. What exactly is this fun place? Asked Tang Xiu. Several rich people got a batch of raw stones from the southern region, and they are now officially selling them at the Star City Convention and Exhibition Center. Putting it plainly, it's a kind of gambling on the stones, explained Long Zhengyu. Gambling on stones? Tang Xiu's expression moved and he looked at the yawning Tang Xiaohan. Yet his mind was lit up and already caught up in the net. He needed precious jades and stones, a massive number of high-quality precious jades and stones to be precise. Whether it was used to craft magical tools or lay arrays in the future, or even to refine storage items, precious jades and stones were the best choices. Xiaohan, let's not go home first. How about going out to play with Master? Tang Xiu held Tang Xiaohan's hand and asked with a smile. Okay. Keenly sensitive as he was, though Tang Xiaohan was unable to see anything and disliked lively places, he was willing to follow Tang Xiu wherever he went. Because he believed that he would spend his life following his master, Tang Xiu, the person that would be his closest family member in the future. After boarding Tang Xiu's car, Long Zhengyu took a seat in the front passenger seat. He turned back to glance at Tang Xiaohan, who sat conscientiously in the back seat, and then spoke to Tang Xiu, anyways, since you want to go with me, have you prepared some money? I heard that these rich people have gotten quite a massive number of raw jades and stones with good quality. You're gonna need a ton of money if you want to play. I do have some money in hands now. Tang Xiu nodded. I'll buy those raw jades and stones if I find them satisfying. Satisfying raw jades and stones? Long Zhengyu shook his head and smilingly said, there's no such satisfying raw jades and stones in the world, mate. Whoever has an X-ray vision and can discern clearly which are precious jades and stones among the lump of rough and raw stones, he will definitely become the richest man in the world quickly. What you said is kinda exaggerated, don't you think? Tang Xiu smiled. 100 million yuan for those top billionaires in the world is nothing but a unit. How much money do you think I can get just by betting on some rough raw stones, huh? That is if you don't have a genuine knowledge regarding precious jades and stones attributes, mate, said Long Zhengyu. I'll tell you something. In the past few years, there was a young man surnamed Shuang that relied on his keen eyes and knowledge pertaining to precious jades and stones. He traveled to the southern and western regions and even ventured to Africa to bet on these stones. He bought those precious jades and stones and used the materials for his jade business. And you know what? He made a fortune from it. There's someone hailed as the Buddha of Jade in the western region, and he also holds this young man named Shuang in high esteem. This fella now has a net worth of more than 10 billion. Listen to me clearly, what I'm talking about is USD. Tang Xiu pondered for a moment, before nodding slowly and saying, gold is indeed valuable, but the jade is indeed priceless. Anyhow, if I can get so far as to really get tons of high-quality jades, obtaining tons of money is indeed feasible. Except that it's a pity I have too little time to spare on the jade business, else I'd really like to meet this young man surnamed Shuang. I want to see him in person, too, but it's hella difficult to meet him. Besides, he's also a very busy man. Long Zhengyu smilingly said. However, he should comply with your request to meet him given your identity, though. I tell you, mate. That guy is my idol. Tang Xiu couldn't help but break into laughter. It's so unlikely for you to go that far, no? Though your Long family is not as rich as him, it's unlikely for you to go so far as to make him your idol, man. Hey, what I'm telling you is not about making money, said Long Zhengyu while pouting his lips. Then, in what aspect are you talking about? Asked Tang Xiu, astounded. Long Zhengyu grinned and smilingly said, this Shuang fella's techniques in managing chicks have reached the point of being perfect, mate. You know what? He has several wives in his house, and his wives get along with each other very harmoniously. Our country is not the likes of some foreign countries and only allows a man to have one wife. His other wives have no status as a legal wife by law, though, but those women are willingly following him as long as they can be with him. Ugh. Tang Xiu was stunned and stared blankly. He immediately raised his hand and gave him a thumbs up as he praised, that guy is so amazing. Chapter 640, Massive Capital. Star City Convention and Exhibition Center. Security guards in black security uniforms, numbering over 100 men, secured the order in the venue. The guests who came to participate in the stone gambling could be too many to count. Tang Xiu just entered the venue while holding Tang Xiaohan, and with a glance, he guesstimated that there were at least 2,000 people here, creating a very busty and lively scene. How come there are so many people here? Asked Tang Xiu, feeling a bit incredible. The stone gambling should have been held in the Blue City, said Long Zhengyu with a smile. But some rich and powerful bigwigs in Star City moved this stone gambling event to our city after using all sorts of relationships and means. Hence the reason why the riches who love jade came to Star City from all over the country. That's right, have you heard the news about the hotels in our city? All the hotels in Star City are fully occupied with guests now. How many raw stones material did these local millionaires get? How can they attract rich people from all over the country? Asked Tang Xiu, surprised. It's massive in number, I tell you, said Long Zhengyu in a whisper. I even heard that they pulled half of the raw stones produced in the southern region. Also, some businessmen who own a jade business also heard the news and thus came over, bringing a batch of their raw stones to sell. Shortly put, you can spend all the money you have today. With eyes lit up, Tang Xiu recalled that he only had a few raw stones and jade materials at this time, and he just realized it upon hearing Long Zhengyu's narration, so this occasion was like it prepared for him. Going along with the stream of people entering the exhibition center, Tang Xiu now could clearly see a lot of raw stones piled up in a temporarily built shed, each of which had its own staff taking care of it, while each pile of raw stones had a price tag on it. Some stones were priced at a few hundred yuan, some were priced at a few thousand yuan, but some others were priced at a few million. What made Tang Xiu feel even more incredible was that several stones that were priced at more than 10 million. This was just merely the scene he saw at random at the outermost shed, and there were at least dozens of sheds more when he looked around. Zhengyu, do you also plan to play some? Tang Xiu turned to look at Long Zhengyu and asked with a smile. I'm a poor bloke, mate. Long Zhengyu shook his head. I will still be fine if you want me to fork out a few 100,000 yuan, but I'm going to go broke if you ask me to fork out 1 million. I'm really a poor bloke. Bah, go to hell. Tang Xiu cussed. Nobody can be called as rich under the sun if you're a poor bloke, man. You don't need to act like you're a sorry figure. With so much money, why bother investing in the business, then? Besides, aren't you the one who manages my construction projects? Supposing that you really can't turn over the capital, you still can use it for the occasion just fine, no? Nope, that won't do. Long Zhengyu sternly rebuked. What I get from your projects is being used to rebuild Nine Dragons Island. Unless the project is done, only then can I use the profit, else using it now before the project is finished is a big no-no. Whatever you say, then. Tang Xiu shook his head. In any case, I won't bother with your things, you have your own way around it. As they continued moving forward with the stream of people, Tang Xiu's gaze continued sweeping through the raw stones in the sheds. After having observed several sheds, he finally stopped in front of a shed that sold jade materials. Rough raw stones also filled this shed, but most of them were jade materials. The jades, however, were obviously just taken from the pile of raw stones. The quality is average. After observing it for a while, Tang Xiu had already his own judgment inwardly. Do you want to buy some of them, two gentlemen? These jades of mine are of good quality. A middle-aged man with a plump belly asked the duo with a beaming smile. Behind him were 4 young men in a suit who kept scanning the guests in the shed. Tang Xiu put Tang Xiaohan down and walked inside while holding his hand. There, only then did he respond and smilingly said, "We're going to have a look at them first. Might buy some if we find some good ones." The smile on the middle-aged man immediately turned more bright. He patted his chest and said, "Two little brothers, these jades of mine here are definitely of good quality. I have jade seeds, nephrite jade, and also jadeite. And you can be sure that these jades here have absolutely fair prices." While observing the jade materials and the prices tagged on them, Tang Xiu forced a smile inwardly. The jade materials here were tagged with high prices. Though he was not short on money at this moment, wanting to hoard a massive number of jades at such prices would make him bleed, as it would cost him a lot of money. 10 minutes later, Tang Xiu turned to the middle-aged man who was currently greeting other guests. He called him and said, "I have seen all the jades you have here, but the price is way too expensive, and most of them are only of average quality. Let me put it this way, I'll take all of them if you give me a fair price for all the jade materials here." What? The plump middle-aged man was dumbfounded, and he looked at Tang Xiu with an incredulous expression, saying, "Tell me, little brother, are you kidding me? I got tons of jade here, and all of them should be no less than 1.8 billion. Tang Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him and seriously said, "I'm not joking with you. I need to buy a lot of precious stones and jades, and you happen to have ready-made ones here. We can strike a business deal directly as long as we can agree on the price." The plump middle-aged man looked more serious as he carefully observed Tang Xiu a few times. Then, he suddenly furrowed his brows and said, "Where have I seen you before, little brother? How come I feel like you look so familiar?" "I can guarantee this is our first time meeting," said Tang Xiu. "This face of mine is common among people, so you feel that I look a bit familiar." The middle-aged man nodded without speaking. He looked around first and then spoke in a deep tone. "I'll give you a 10% discount if you really buy all the jade materials I have here. 40% is my bottom line." Tang Xiu shook his head. "You don't bargain for such lower price like that, young man." The fat middle-aged man called out loudly. 40% off? I will eat quite a loss if I sell them at a 40% discount. If you're not serious in buying, I had better forget it. We can't have a business deal then, it seems. Tang Xiu shook his head. "It doesn't matter, though. I'll look elsewhere since you don't want to accept it." Upon seeing Tang Xiu's intention of leaving, the fat middle-aged man hastily said, 15%. "How about 15%? This is the bottom line I can afford." 40%. Tang Xiu still shook his head. Having said that, he grabbed Tang Xiaohan's hand and walked toward the outside with Long Zhengyu. The expression of the fat middle-aged man was constantly changing. He looked at Tang Xiu's back and wanted to call him, but the jade he bought did not come at a cheap price. If he were to sell it to Tang Xiu at 40% discount, not only would he not make a profit, but he would also lose some money. He would break even if he was to sell them at a 30% discount. 20% discount was his bottom line. Just as Tang Xiu and Long Zhengyu were about to step of the shed, the plump middle-aged man strode to overtake them and shouted, "How about 20%, little brother? We'll have a deal if you can agree with it. But if you can't, you can have a look at another shed." Tang Xiu's pace came to a halt as he re-examined the jade stones in the shed. What is the estimated total price for all the jades you have here? A total of 645 million yuan before the discount. We have sold some of them before, and the remaining goods should be around 610 million, answered the fat middle-aged man. Then we have a deal. Tang Xiu nodded after giving it a thought. Calculate the price with the discount, and then have all the jade materials here delivered to the address I'll give you. The middle-aged complied and quickly calculated the total price of the remaining jade stones. After spending some time to calculate, he took the bill, came to Tang Xiu and said, "It will be 485.32 million yuan. Since little brother is so straight, I'll cut off the fraction of the number for you, for a total of 485 million yuan. You need to pay 85 million deposit in advance if you want me to deliver them to your designated address, and the address must not be out of Shuangqing province. We can settle the account for the goods afterward." "No need to be that troublesome," said Tang Xiu. "Just send your people to load all the jade materials into a car, and then come with me together. My place is not far from here and is located in the Star City urban district. When the goods have arrived in my place, we'll conclude with the payment." The plump middle-aged man immediately nodded and said, "No problem. I'll have it arranged now." While looking at the hundreds of blocks of stones in the corner, Tang Xiu then said with a smile, "Would you like to sell all those stones to me, too? I'll give you 15 million yuan for each, that should do, no? How about 500 million yuan and I take all of them? The total price of each of those raw stones is 30 million, little brother." The fat middle-aged man smiled bitterly. "Even if I give you a 20% discount, it's still about 25 million yuan. You're really too ruthless. What if I buy raw jade materials from you in the future? As long as the quality is not worse than these ones, I'll buy them from you however many you can provide. How about it?" said Tang Xiu with a smile. The plump middle-aged man stared blankly for a moment and then asked with an astounded expression, "Are you serious?" "Of course I'm serious." Tang Xiu chuckled. "But you shouldn't be too ruthless either. I won't be able to afford it if you send me billions of jade materials that are worth billions of yuan in a year." The plump middle-aged man was excited. Though he felt the following words from Tang Xiu were a bit unreasonable, for a person who could buy jade stones worth 500 million yuan was definitely very rich, more so that he would also buy his jade stones again in the future, so the tens of millions of yuan loss he would suffer would be recovered. After thinking about this, he quickly said, "Deal." Long Zhengyu, who had been standing next to Tang Xiu and saw the two men happily struck a deal, suddenly said, "Aren't you way too extravagant, Tang Xiu? You don't do jade business, yet you bought 500 million yuan worth of jade all of a sudden. What are you going to use it for?" "Well, let's say that I'm going to craft a batch of jadeware whenever I have some spare time later," said Tang Xiu with a smile. Long Zhengyu immediately understood. He knew that Tang Xiu owned 9 Dragons Island with a big castle built on the island, and more manors were likely to be built after the reconstruction. If at that time the utensils on 9 Dragons Island were all made of jade, that would definitely look very elegant and classy. But still, spending so much money on jadeware carvings. Wasn't this way too extravagant and nothing but burning your own money? At this moment, the fat middle-aged man was stunned. Tang Xiu? Could it be that he is from the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, that miracle-working doctor, Tang Xiu?